And ladies and gentlemen, we are live. It is Monday, May 23rd, in the great year of 2022. This is the Voice of Reason podcast. As always, I am your host, Sean Phillips, joined alongside my two co-hosts, Mr. Andrew Van Beber and Travis Kirkendall. Gentlemen, how are we doing today, my friends?
Well, after getting my anus handed to me last night by my son in Dad versus Bryson versus Dad. If for those who
Yes, you did.
Sean always likes to, and he was Sean. There's a term that I have. It's called poking the bear. And as I was reading your comments, Bryson just kept on getting amped up more and more and more, and I was just like, could you, it's like, hey, why don't you try the Joker? Why don't you play with the Joker and do this and then? So out of Travis, if you didn't see, we played 10 rounds of Injustice last night, and my son demolished me 7 rounds to 3. So
jeez,
it wasn't even, and the 3 wins that I had were like the last shot. We were both like down to nothing, so
he's got bragging rights for the whole week.
Yeah. So I told him, I said, next week we're playing horse. That's all there is to it. We're going to play horse. So
yeah, it was amusing because whenever he was the whooping on you, and then I was like, yeah, use the Joker, and then the first fight, it's like I don't know how to use the Joker. He's like, but I'm still better than you, so well, get it figured out. So.
And I called him. But no, and then we did we actually went disc golfing about an hour ago, 2 hours ago. We went disc golfing with our neighbors and had a good time out on the course, and so we had fun. How about your weekend, Travis? How'd you do?
Our weekend was pretty chill. We didn't do anything too crazy. The weather was kind of really shit here. It rained all day Saturday, so we kind of just. Yeah, we didn't do anything. It was just a boring doing chores and catching up on homework kind of weekend.
Yeah, how is the schooling going?
I'm ready to finish these courses and reevaluate if I want to do this until I get a good job.
Yeah.
Until I get something that's a little bit more not as. Something more steady, I guess is a better way to put it. It's kind of almost impossible to put in a good effort into it. So yeah. But I'm finished. Thank God.
How about you, Sean? What was your weekend like?
It was a drill weekend for me. So work Sunday was really nice. I had some friends come over. We've got the swimming pool. We did some barbecuing, and my parents came up and brought my niece so that Julian could hang out with her, just because they're besties.
What's the age difference there?
Riley's 4 and Julian's 3, or is Riley 5? I don't. It's all a blur. I think Riley is like an older 4. And Julian's kind of like a newer 3. Well, so it's only like a year and a half or so.
Cousin,
I don't know.
Cousin, that whole cousin thing will be great. So there you go.
Yeah. And I think that the way that like where Julian's birthday is and where Riley's birthday is they'll technically only be a year apart in school. And mind you, we'll be in California. They'll be here in Missouri, so it's not like they'll be in school together.
Right.
But around the same age, which is great. And then Aria, my other nieces, just will be just turned 1 not too long ago. So
yes,
they're all close.
Yeah, I always love seeing Daniel's updates. Those are always nice. So
yeah. So.
But no, I saw some people I hadn't seen. A friend of mine had passed back during Christmas, and they had his memorial service. It was his funeral on Saturday. So I saw some folks who I hadn't seen in 25 years and from college. And, you walk in and you see these people and they're like, man, you're old. And I'm like, well, yeah, you are too. But it was good. I was talking to a friend who I saw there this morning on just chatting. And we were just talking about how, it was a mournful experience, but it was good for the soul to see, old college friends and stuff like that. And And Clopton had their graduation yesterday, and saw a lot of people who I hadn't seen in 10, 15 years at the graduation. Yeah, that was good. And a lot of comments this week from people who really enjoyed the show last week, even though it was a somber topic. A lot of good. Thank you guys for your feedback and everything. We appreciate that. But yeah, so all the good stuff going on. What topic do we want to tackle tonight first? There's so many that Travis and I were talking about before you came on tonight, Sean. And I didn't. This has been the what's the good educated word, cornucopia of news events over the last 72 hours.
Mm-hmm. Fear porn everywhere.
Yes. Go ahead and what'd you call it?
Fear.
Oh,
fear porn.
Yeah, fear porn. Why don't you tell me why don't you tell the folks back out there what you think that is, Travis? It's a good. I never heard that word before, and it's a good term.
It's somebody I heard. It's like somebody else said. I just think it's so relevant. I mean, it's like there's so much fear news, and people are addicted to it. They're feeding off of it. They're getting so involved in it, and it's like I was telling you. Where was I at? On Bing News? As soon as I pull up my computer, I get all these news articles, and it is just I don't want to say comical, but it's kind of ridiculous. Like one article, one of the first articles that popped up, and I read it to you. Putin ally warns World War III is coming unless West stops weapons supply. Oh, that's great. World War III, right? There was another one about here's one. Russia's relentless offensive, more war. The baby formula shortage. There's something going on about Operation Fly Formula, which we're going to get into.
Yeah.
There was one thing talking about white privilege, which
you gotta have.
We'll get to that someday.
Yeah,
sure.
You gotta have that, right?
Yeah, you really got to poke the fire with that one. This is all these fear-based articles everywhere. The world's getting crazy. This is ending. Oh, there was. I was telling you about the one I saw. They're calling for worldwide blackouts.
Yeah,
due to heat waves and global warming this year, which I don't know. That sounds kind of orchestrated or made up to me, but hey, who knows? We'll see. I mean, they've been talking about cyber attacks happening this year. I mean, it's just crazy, nonstop, scary news coming out left and right and everywhere. So wherever you guys want to start.
Well, let's talk about this in general first, and then we'll get down to specific issues, because I want to kind of, before I lose my place on this, and this was a discussion that Janine and I had a couple times this week. This is before your time, but I was talking to Travis before we came on. The band The Eagles, their lead singer Don Henley, and this was back in the 80s. But he had a song, and this was just at the beginning of the global news phenomenon, the CNNs, Fox wasn't around yet, but it was the beginning of the 24-hour news cycle. Don Henley had this song that was called Dirty Laundry. And Janine's like, I've never heard this. And it was one of his first big hits off of his first debut album, solo album. Let me just read just a few of these lyrics. And if you know the song, play it. You can read it. You can listen to it sometime. But it starts out by saying, let's see, where's a good place to start at right here. I make my living off the evening news. Just give me something I can use. People love it when you lose. They love dirty laundry. And then I could have been an actor, but I wound up here. I just have to look good. I don't have to be clear. Come and whisper in my ear. Give us dirty laundry. And then the next verse. We got the bubble-headed bleach blonde who comes on at 5. She can tell you about the plane crash with a gleam in her eye. It's interesting when people die. Give us dirty laundry. Next verse. Can we film the operation? Is the head dead yet? You know, the boys in the newsroom got a running bet. Get the widow on the set. We need dirty laundry. And then the last verse is the kicker. It says, you don't really need to find out what's going on. You don't really want to know just how far it's gone. Just leave well enough alone. He said, eat your dirty laundry. And to me, you know,
and that's the 80s.
That was the 80s. That was the 80s, and that was at the beginning. I mean, when you talk to him about that song, you know, when you hear him talk about just the lyrics of that song, I mean, that describes what the news is. You know, fear porn is what sells copy. Fear porn is what gets ratings, and it's who can report on it first. Kyle McGuire, KFK. Good evening, KFK. He says, watch out, world. Al Gore is finally going to be right. Global warming, here we come. So, yes, there you go. What's your thoughts on this, Sean?
Well, it's really just kind of a big jumble of everything. We've kind of talked about it, since we started the show, of just kind of how things are starting to trend. And there's always something scary. There always has to be, something scary to really draw people in. Even just like people that are kind of like casual viewers or casual conversationists, like start to talk about this, the next big wave of things. For me, like, this has really started to affect me a little bit more. I'm starting to feel like probably more like Travis does, is because when I look at like a lot of things, so right now, one of the big things I'm trying to do before this move to California is like budget, planning on, hey, like what makes sense to buy when, or this, that, or the other. And, now where we live now, right? Like, I don't really worry about the price of meat, because there's a lot of local butchers, and we've always kind of shopped local, and I'm not too worried about what's happening in Texas or California with their cows. I'm usually focused on like my local farmer and buying grass fed from my local farmer. Well, now, like when I move into LA and I see all these like shortages about this, that, or the other, it just really makes me think of like, how much is this going to be out there? What's going to be on the shelves whenever it's finally time to be out there? And I've kind of been thinking, I was like, man, Travis living by Chicago kind of probably deals with that same kind of things. And of course, gas now in my town, I don't know about you guys, it's $4.25 today. So it is continuing to rise, and I wouldn't be surprised if we hit.
What'd you say? Did you say $4.89?
I did.
Oh my gosh.
Man.
We'll be at 5 soon. It's
we're at $4.15 right now. So
Danny's here saying she thinks it'll be 6 by summer.
So and all of this, I don't like the balance that they're.
Oh, that's a good point. So she just said she just read this article that said $6 gas. So that's another thing they're pushing to scare people. $6 gas coming. It's going to keep rising. I just wanted to add to what we were talking about before.
Well, and again, we had a comment in our section that says, "Thank you, Joe." And again, this is part of that. This is people, and this is part of the cycle.
Yeah, we got you.
I don't know why we froze up there, but. Are we even?
Oh, did he freeze again? Looks like he froze again.
Am I frozen?
Okay,
nope, now you're back.
Now. Good old Spectrum Internet, boys. What can I say?
No, it's the blackouts. It's the cyber attacks.
The cyber attacks have us. There you go. So
they're trying to ban the voice of reason.
No, but if I'm going to go on a rant and say, that the internet, that the news cycles are using this information. So who's benefiting from all of this fear mongering?
The news networks, your medias.
Well, and
I would say
it could be, and it could be businesses like the people that remember. Who made the most money of the COVID-19 era? The fucking Charmin Ultra. Okay, like that is who made the most money. Keeping toilet
Yeah,
paper off the shelves
yeah,
forever. I mean, we're starting to see those trends again. It's the same with gas. Like when I went to get gas the other day, there was someone that had like a tankard in the back of their truck that they were filling up with at Sam's Club. And it's and baby formula right now is a big issue that a lot of people are calling people out on, of like people that don't need it. Like it just goes to show, like, one of the bad things, that people, talk about when it comes to things like capitalism, is you're going to see people buying baby formula at Walmart for $20 and then putting it on Facebook Marketplace. Hey, can't find any baby formula? I've got cans for you. Just $40 a
Yep.
can.
yeah.
Don't worry,
And
it's here.
that's price gouging. And
Hmm.
what have you guys? I mean, what are you guys finding as the reason for this shortage?
So I found one thing regarding the Abbott nutrition plant. I guess there was a huge recall. There was like bacteria that got mixed into like some of the formulas, and like babies like had like one kid I was reading had like half their brain removed from it. Like it was something crazy like that. And there was a huge recall, and that I guess that put them back on supply. And now I was reading an article how there's like a huge gap in like regulation and reporting that goes into like the production of a lot of these baby formulas and stuff, and they're trying to crack down on it because some stuff, like they were passing stuff that wasn't like passing inspection, that it wasn't sanitary. There was just a lot of things not meeting the standard, but the demand was so high that they were just kept pushing and pushing for it. And I guess that led to some recalls. I don't know if that's just one of the main reasons. I'm sure somebody's blamed Ukraine for this.
Geez, well, look at this. I'm looking at an article on CNET here. As the United States continues to grapple with a nationwide infant formula shortage, a military plane carrying over 500,000 baby
Yeah.
bottles worth of specialty formula has finally touched down in Indianapolis on Sunday as a part of President Joe Biden's plan, Operation Fly Formula. So they're quite literally, using the Department of Defense to deliver this baby formula in 2022.
Well,
Well, they said
our friend,
it's Biden's order, so maybe it's for an election
yeah,
bonus or something.
and our over the road trucker friend Kyle McGuire, who listens in on us, he said, "Hey, but they're transporting 78,000 pounds of formula, so that's going to solve the entire country's shortage." So I really don't. Between and what's this? I just saw something tonight about a peanut butter recall as well. Is this?
What? Really?
Yeah, and one of my friends had posted something. This is.
Oh yeah.
So when
It popped up.
yeah, the reports that I want to. I want to read this a little bit out of this article that I shared with you guys earlier. So this was this was off of parade.com, and it was talking about things that you will see shortages of this summer. Obviously, different grocery store shortages. Current, like you said already, Sean, you already talked about fresh meat shortages. So you'll see, especially in beef and poultry, this is due to several factors, with manufacturing plant labor shortages causing most of the issue. Beef will likely see most shortages because in beef plants more labor intensive. Dairy may be short this year. Egg shortage. And again, crop failures. Again, of course, this article says thanks to climate change, there'll be a canned food shortage not because of low supply of food, but a low availability of aluminum. Pet food shortages because of increased costs for pet food ingredients like corn, soy, meat, and some specific oils. Bottled water and sodas because of shortage, not of supply of the product, but of the plastic that goes into the product. So is this? Oh, I trace a lot of this back to. I've already traced this back to people, like they're saying, there are job shortages, people not going to work in the factories. It is a, it is. A, I don't know if you can trace this all the way back to COVID or people just not wanting to go back to work, the minimum wage thing. But it's had a trickle down effect all the way down the. I mean, I think you can put so many different factors into this that's causing all this to happen.
Yeah, and it's not rocket science if you look pretty much at any place, in your town, in your hometown, wherever you're at. Labor shortage is a real thing, and continues to be. That's one of the things that was kind of crazy, where like COVID hit and people were out of work and people were complaining about money and issues like that. And it sucked and it really hurt. But then when things started to open up, people still weren't going back to work. And it's not like the stimulus checks were rolling in that people were making a ton of money. So I'm almost wondering if like people just kind of learned how to adapt with the bare minimum or what the situation is. I saw, I saw a thing that was like, that was talking about the serving industry. Like people, like a lot of restaurants right now are struggling to have staff. And there was a thing that was like, hey, to the non-tipper out there, you complain that servers, if they wanted to make more than $3.15 an hour, they should go work somewhere else. Well, that person did work somewhere else, and now you're having to wait 45 minutes, and you're mad about waiting 45 minutes for food because the restaurant that you like to go to doesn't have the serving staff anymore. It's true. And I think a lot of that still now is happening at these other facilities. Like we know the chicken shortage,
bird flu.
I feel like that's going to bounce back. Yeah. The bird flu
thing going on.
That's going to bounce back. That's just one of those things that we're kind of going through. And of course it's at the same time that everything else is also kind of going through the ringer right now. So it makes it worse. And as a guy that eats a ton of eggs, eats a ton of chickens, it's extremely frustrating. Mm-hmm. But what I've done is there's people locally for me that raise farm fresh eggs. Mm-hmm. And right now it costs me the same to buy farm fresh eggs from them as it would to go to the grocery store. Right. At Sam's Club, they have this giant cardboard box that's filled with eggs.
Yeah, you told me
that used to be all of $9, and now it's almost $30, which is crazy. I mean, so one of the things that I've been looking at for when we move to LA for the first time, and again, I don't know how long we can maintain it, but like I've priced what it would look like to go to the grocery store to buy certain things versus some of these like meal plans, which normally might seem more expensive. But what I'm kind of trying to factor in is like cost of gas and transportation to go to grocery store, deal with people at the grocery store versus paying the delivery fee and just having the food brought to me weekly. And then even if we just did the subscription for like 3 months,
you're going to pan out about
a lot of these companies have deals that save you money like the first couple of weeks that you use it and without any penalty. So considering doing that, getting the discount, canceling the subscription, maybe switching over to another one, regain their benefits for a little bit until until this situation fizzles away. That way I don't have to do any planning and workarounds and couponing and all that crap. It's wild.
I'm looking at, and I'm looking right now. I just pulled up the Bureau of. They're talking about unemployment. This is from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, and this was back on May 6th. They're reporting from April that this is the first time unemployment is now at the same rate now that it was pre-COVID. I'll take that back. In February 2020, it was 3.5%. We're at 3.6% right now in April. So, to me, there's just not a lot of things adding up to me. I'm assuming then that the shortages are just in the areas of these key areas, like in aluminum production, like on these farms, like in these processing plants. I mean, the unemployment must be hitting the right sectors at the right time for this to happen, and to still have this supply chain disruption. Wouldn't you say?
Um, so there's something to be considered. From COVID, a lot of people started to work remotely.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of jobs became work from home. And I don't have numbers in front of me or statistics, but a possibility could be that a lot of people saw that many companies were allowing people to work from home. And there's been a big push for this. You can literally go to YouTube and type in work from home, and there's so many YouTube
Yeah.
influencers out there now that like are talking about this. It's like a growing thing. So personally, what I think a lot of these like shortages are for workers, and like specifically like your entertainment industry and like your food and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that people realize that they can get a job working from the comfort of their home, making the same, maybe even more money. And I think a lot of people are taking advantage of that. So maybe that's why we're seeing the unemployment rates the same, and yet in-person jobs we're seeing a shortage. Again,
Well,
I don't have numbers to
and I think
show.
that also one factor that you always have to consider with the Bureau of Labor Statistics is that's only the people who are actually applying for unemployment. So
True.
that number isn't giving a total accurate. And Kyle also just mentioned, like he delivers to a lot of factories. He said most factories I go to are so shorthanded. It's been getting so bad since COVID. Most customers I go to are running a third of its staff or less, and he said it's a downhill reaction. What about if you like Sean? You were saying a while ago about restaurant staffs, and you're looking at. I guess it depends on where you're at. I mean, our friends over at McDinger's, just opened back up at the beginning of this month, and
Mm-hmm.
they have our kids love it in the local community because it's a close job. It's right there. It's a good paying job for kids starting out in high school, and there they go. But you go to, and according to that article out of Parade, it's saying labor intensive jobs. And I found that interesting for them to pull that out. I mean, if you were to if you read that and you hear that, what is that saying about? What do you think that message is that they're trying to portray to the American workforce about the American workforce? That they're, are they lazy? I mean, to me, when I read that article and I'm looking at it again, to me the implication is people aren't wanting to go into labor intensive jobs unless they get paid, I guess, what they feel appropriately.
Yeah, and I
And
think part of the issue is too now is like if you look at all the rising costs of inflation and everything else, like people are frustrated if they go and they work 40 hours a week and then they're still behind on bills, even if they're making 18, 19, $20 an hour. Like that's frustrating for people. And I completely understand why. But where prices are with things right now, like gas, if you look at like literally gas now, like if you have to travel for work, there's people I know that have talked to their boss like, hey, we need to work something out because I'm it hurts my pockets to come to work right now. Like bad enough to the point where they have to have those discussions with their boss. Like, can there be any kind of extra pay to help me out right now? And a lot of these companies are just like, no, no, because if it's not you, we'll replace you. And these are people with degrees. Like these are people that are educated, that are going to work. I mean, this isn't just working some normal pop job, but like I'm one of the things that I'm dealing with currently, as a recruiter, and we have our incentives and we have the things, but people right now, they want it quick. And there's a couple of factories out here. Heck, there's Scholastic and Travis. Travis knows the struggle, like I know the struggle of working in a textbook, warehouse.
Not for
Is one of
me.
the most excruciating jobs ever.
oh, I
And
forgot you guys. Yeah.
People turn in and out of that job every 2 weeks, but I think they get paid after the first week. So,
well, that's another interesting thing. I'm seeing more companies now, like your McDonald's and some of your fast food. If you want to, they will pay you daily. I saw, and to me, I haven't heard of something. I mean, the last time I heard of something like that was during the Worldwide Depression in the 1930s. Workers were, especially over in Europe, workers were because the value of the dollar was changing, or the value of their currency was changing on a daily basis, that they demanded to be paid daily, because what your dollar bought today won't buy what it will buy tomorrow. I mean, we're not to that situation yet, but man, that's spooky to hear. I mean, people are like, I saw that at a McDonald's in Pittsfield, and I saw it at a Huck's gas station in Hannibal. It's like, I think they call it flex pay or something like that. Pay when you want to be paid. And to me, that, I guess that's a draw for some people, but man, I guess it wouldn't have any effect on the overhead or anything of the employer. But wow.
And look at all the incentives that are available right now that weren't available 2 years ago, 3 years ago. I mean, United Airlines, for those that don't know, United Airlines is doing $10,000 sign-on bonuses for ramp.
I saw that.
Entry level.
Yep.
Entry level. There was jobs available in California. They're hiring here in Chicago, $10K bonus. It's ridiculous.
Well, an interesting story that came up, and I'll add this as a side note because we just found about it today. We had to go in for Teacher Work Day today, and as I have reported on this podcast before, the Missouri ranks 50th among starting salary for starting teachers in the United States. So the Governor Parsons last week signed a new bill into law that it looks great. It looks great on paper, but it is making the headline would read, Missouri legislature passes where starting salary has to be $38,000. Now, that looks great on paper. And they're doing that. I don't know if they're trying to pull recruits from other states or what they're trying to do. But what that is, and as we looked and I was talking with my boss about this today, Missouri legislators are saying, okay, schools are going to have to pay starting teachers $38,000. Now, none of that trickles down to us veterans. And the other thing about it is it's a 1-year deal. And the state, it's kind of like a 70-30 thing. So and my boss thought it might have been more like 60-40, like the state pays 60 and these schools pay 40. Okay, so your big city schools, no problem, because it doesn't apply to them. Because if you go to a Helias or something there in Jeff City, I can't think what your schools are there in Jeff City, but if you go to those guys are, my niece teaches at Camdenton. She's been teaching for 3 years. And she's already making more than what I am after 24 years of teaching. But you go to these small, poor, rural districts, your Silexes, your Bloomfields, your Nixa. Nixa is not a small district. I'm trying to think of anything else that's small districts in Missouri. Sean, you probably know a bunch of them too. But you go to these smaller districts, and the government's saying, okay, you got to tell these kids that you're going to pay them $38,000 this year, but next year, you're on your own. This is a 1-year deal. And so it's things like this that the government is trying to do these little, it's still a lot of this little quick fix thing. That's what the minimum wage, raising the minimum wage up to $15 an hour was. Quick fix. And we're seeing the backlog of this. And I mean, minimum wage, the $15 minimum wage thing is not that old. And we hate to sound like a broken record here, but if I say I told you so, I told you so. We shared a graphic on our group page the other day about that I actually posted on my Facebook page. raise minimum wage and everything will go away. Well, we're seeing it now. We're seeing people who are, and I still think people are holding out for more money. Okay, so if they're going to pay minimum wage at this $15 an hour job, what are they going to pay at a factory? They're expecting $15 an hour at McDonald's. Well, heck, if I'm going to go work on your assembly line, I expect $21 an hour. Well, then you get your union carpenter, and those guys bust their butts. They bust their chops, and prevailing wages, I'm sure, probably $25 to $30 now. Prevailing wage has to be that for those guys. And then you get the rest of us who are contracted, like myself, and my wife. We might see price of living increases, but I mean, like right now, we've been out to eat one time, and we used to go out. We used to go out every weekend on Friday night or Saturday night. We'd go out to eat, and now we can't afford to do that because, $4.15 gas, or for you guys $4.35 gas, or and the price of groceries. I told you guys the stories about groceries going up. And what I think is really sad about this is your generation and millennials have never, you guys experienced this in your teenage years when we went through the recession in 2008 and 2009.
Mm-hmm.
But as adults, you've never experienced anything like this. And this is going to be a thing that's going to get even bigger because people want to maintain their status quo, and so they will continue to try. They'll try to spend the way that they've always spent. Go out to the movies. Go out to eat. Go do this. Buy this many groceries. Buy that many groceries. And they may start dipping more into their savings, or even worse, go with a credit card, whatever. And
I think you'll see a big increase in that.
Exactly. And so then we start seeing these, we're already seeing the housing market is, still relatively strong, but you're seeing sales start to and I don't want to say drop off, but you're still seeing, you're seeing decline throughout the industry. What did I read? So the S&P now, Travis, was it now three weeks in a row now that it has been in the negative? Did I read that correctly? Was it
It's
Friday?
Like that.
Friday or Saturday, I read the headline that said the S&P has not had a gain day in 3 weeks, which is the longest in the history of that market. And
I know it had like one of its worst performing months in like
14,
2030,
something
like that.
It's 14, or it's down 14 to 18%, something like that is what I read. And in our circles, we call, historians, we call that some people call it a correction. They use the term correction, that the market has, overinflated itself, and this is just things getting back in. But, when we take all of these things into consideration, and because of the 24-hour news cycle, people are now, go back to our thing about fear porn. So now people are back in this cycle of, oh my gosh, what do we got to do? And I shared something in one of my students' grandparents, Depression era lady, said, "Hey, cut back, start planting your own garden, stop going out as much." And then her son, her grandson, well, Grandma, we just, and he responded on my Facebook post, well, that's kind of hard to do. No, it isn't. I think people get used to where we get to a certain level where we think, man, I've got to go out and eat. Man, I haven't been to the Mexican restaurant or the Chinese restaurant or the Italian place in forever. Man, we need to go. Okay. And I'm not saying this to brag, but our last 2 months on our paycheck has been tight. We haven't had the money to go out. We haven't had the money, I hate to say this, but I used a credit card so we could take my wife out to the movies for Mother's Day, and we hate using our credit card. But I was like, we're going to celebrate this. We're going to celebrate Mother's Day. If we have to dip into, credit to do it, we're going to do it. But I mean, like you said, we said a while ago, Travis. I think it's going to be a dangerous trend that's going to start to occur.
Well, I know I've talked to folks before. I've seen people kind of talk about like I think the idea of like buying groceries is super scary. Like eating healthy or like buying groceries and budgeting groceries out, it can seem intimidating if you've never done it before. But the constant argument that I get is people like, oh, well, I could load up $60 in a cart and that won't feed me for 2 days. Like, if I went to Taco Bell or if I went to McDonald's, like I can get a number 1 and a number 2 for me and my husband, and I'll spend $13 and that's cheap. It's
not
like
anymore.
And I'm just like, you're not, because what you're putting in your cart isn't, like you're looking at it of like, oh my God, I'm buying all this food at one time and I'm throwing $70 away. I'm throwing $60 away. But if you shop correctly and you plan it out, that food lasts you the whole week. It doesn't last you just 2 days. And
people aren't used to that either. Of actually
eating leftovers or eating the same thing twice, 2 days in a row, or like what you have for dinner, the leftovers you have for lunch the next day. People are like, oh God, no. And if, again, but you run into people that are picky eaters and that don't like, I only eat this certain kind of thing or this certain kind of thing, or like I know people that legitimately eat out fast food every single day.
I don't see how they can afford
every
that.
Single day.
I can't see how people afford that.
Because there's still, you can get 2 cheeseburgers off the $1 menu and a large soda for $5, and you do that for breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
It killed me that I was. I'm sorry, Travis. Go ahead.
I was just gonna make a smart ass comment. It's the same people that drive diesel trucks to work every day, and yet they don't haul anything.
You can blow that black smoke, baby.
Let me tell you, that's a thing that I noticed, like and they talk about this in Europe. They talk about this. America is one of the few countries that we like have these oversized trucks that
you don't see that.
Like you don't see that anywhere else in the world. We have these.
Maybe someplace in Central and South America just to get around in the terrain, but those are actual tactical
they
trucks.
They use them for what they're for.
Right, like, not for show.
Who needs a Hemi, rolling down, US 4060, just to haul nothing, or like, oh, I can, move stuff when I need it. I'd rather, and it's like, you could do the same. You can haul the same shit in an S10.
Right.
You literally can haul the same thing in a Toyota. Like all these smaller trucks, they get way better gas mileage that will last you longer and still have 4-wheel drive.
And it
blows my mind.
And you're paying. So the new, and of course, I love the new. I've been a converted Dodge fan, and the new, and you have to wait for it for 6 months. But the new 2022 Dodge Ram 1500, equipped similarly to what I have. I mean, I've got a few of the bells and whistles on my truck. $80,000. That's how much I paid for my house in Pittsfield. I mean that's not even a tricked out vehicle. You're talking basic Joe. You've got the satellite radio, you've got the touch screen, and you might have GPS. $80,000. And what's bad is that there are fools who are lining up to do that. And again, go back to, it's the same concept of, is somebody going to eat leftovers, or, oh no, I've got to have brand new vehicle every time. Where's I think that's part of feeding the problem, though. If you have to have, and you mentioned going out to, I swung through McDonald's the other night, and I forgot we had. Oh, it was last week. Last Tuesday night we had the kids' spring concert, and I said, oh, I'll just roll through McDonald's, and it killed me. And we didn't buy anything. I mean, I bought 4 extra value meals, a double quarter pounder for me, a quarter pounder for my wife, and my kid Briley had a cheeseburger and fries and a small or a medium shake, and Bryson had a 10-piece chicken nugget meal. $41.
Holy shit!
40, and
Oh,
I'm like,
God, that's
I
McDonald's.
well, but I was like,
That's crazy.
and it kind of shocked me. I mean, we used to live when I lived in Pittsfield. We lived 3 blocks from McDonald's, and that was it was nothing for us just to hey, let's go down to McDonald's and drop $25. And I was like, wow, 25. But when you and I'm sure there are those people who eat out every day, but I think that I think that people need if we went through another depression today, if we said, okay, we're going to have the market, and I mean, there are a lot of safeguards that keep this from happening, but if the market bottoms out, we see mass unemployment, people are not going to respond the same way they did back in 1929. I mean,
Absolutely not.
rioting, looting in the streets, protests,
We have social media now too, and that's only going to
yeah,
fuel it.
yeah. And I mean, we, are your neighbors going to come to your aid? Are you going to help pay something off or do something productive? I, I don't think people know how to survive. I mean, when I mean, if I haven't planted a garden in 3 years, but it wouldn't take me anything to till out a spot in my backyard, plant corn, tomatoes, and potatoes. And I mean, hey, if I have to survive off of three, I can do it. But there's some people who just could not survive. Go back to what you're saying, Sean, who couldn't survive without, I've got to have this certain food. I've got to eat this certain way. I've got to drink. Man, if you have a soda shortage, we might actually see our nation's obesity rate go down then
That would
finally.
look like a zombie apocalypse of people piling over one another, like just pure anger and caffeine and sugar addiction, just rushing in. You just see a pallet coming down with a parachute. You just see people climbing over one another to get their hands on that shit.
Oh my gosh, Apex Legends comes to life. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
It's I again it's weird. I'm actually intrigued, as nervous as I am for this move and for things like this. I'm interested to see kind of like what it actually looks like out there. Like we're going to be living in the thresh of West Hollywood, like downtown LA, not, big skyscraper downtown LA, but where, we're packed in when you see or hear about the nonsense that goes on out there. Like that's where we're at. And so I'm actually interested to see what it kind of looks like. But here's the thing is like, you always hear about how bad it is, but I still have friends that live out there. I know people that have lived there for 30 something years and they're still doing just fine. So, it makes me think of like when we're here, like in, Missouri and like small town, like it seems like it's so bad, but you really don't know till you're kind of there kind of thing. And you have this perception of what it is or until you're actually there to figure it out. Like I'm excited. We're going to be really close to a Trader Joe's, and I haven't been close to a Trader Joe's in 3 years now. So I'm super excited because I love Trader Joe's, and I'm so excited to be within walking distance to one. So,
well, so what is the, do you feel comfortable sharing what you shared on Facebook earlier tonight about the moving costs and all that stuff?
Yeah, I mean, so that's another thing is moving cost is ridiculous. Like, and it's actually crazy. I've had 4 people message me now that have legitimately just been like, sell everything you have and just buy new stuff when you get over there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like I had people comment it, and then I had people message it to me, and like we're not in a position where we can do that. But like we have boxes, but like we're trying to get rid of our van because van out there is like gas out there is just crazy. But we're downsizing. We have a large 2-bedroom apartment that people could argue could like hold enough for like a 3-bedroom, but like our living room furniture we're getting rid of. We're getting rid of so much stuff, and even still like the 16 foot moving van. Like, I'm not joking, to
No,
move it
yeah.
just with the cost of the van. I'll have to pay for a dolly to pull my car, because
Hmm.
it's cheaper to
To
pull
pull
the
it and then
car as
drive it,
opposed to
right?
drive it and pay the gas. The insurance, because God forbid something happens to where, but the insurance alone for this trip is ridiculous. But we're looking at a total cost before gas of around between $1,300 to $1,600, I'd say.
God.
That's to move, and it's crazy. That is crazy to me. Like, how all the money we put aside just to move. That doesn't include, like the deposit, the first month's rent, activated all the utilities, this, that, or the other, getting internet set up. Like, I don't even know what internet's looking like out there. I'm considering T-Mobile. Here's a free plug for them. They have
Yeah, they got a good deal going right now.
they've got a good deal for like 5G unlimited,
Hmm.
completely unlimited hotspot for like $50 a month.
You
But
can't.
being military, I'll get a discount on that. So it's like, that's almost worth it, because I mean, for my job, I'll have my office and use the office internet. But like at home, we watch Netflix. I don't even play video games, and we do the show. And this a 5G streaming box for $40 a month would be just perfect
Hmm.
for all we need, as opposed to setting up the landline internet that could be God knows how much.
And see, and I don't, and I respect you for that, because I think you're already, you know, there people who are looking 4 and 5 steps ahead. Those people are few and far between anymore, especially with the generation that's in education right now, is in high school, college. People aren't looking ahead to, okay, how can I effectively plan for X situation? People, the idea of, and I think it's the prevailing idea, is let's play this by ear. Let's shoot from the hip, and let's play this by ear, and we'll see how it works out.
Mm-hmm.
And I know a lot of people who are living like that. I had one of my friends who messaged, younger friends, one of my former youth, who she's like, fiance got laid off today, and rent is due at the end of the week for $1,600.
Mm.
Okay, do you have an emergency backup fund? Now, a lot of us can't say that we do. I mean, my wife takes out some. We have some in her credit union through her work that, if we need to, and it's over in Springfield, so it's not like we have direct access to it. We have to really
Mm-hmm.
gauge it out and say, okay, this is an emergency. We need to drive to Springfield, draw that money out, so it's not there to tempt us just to burn it whenever we need it. And I don't think people look far ahead and do like you're saying, Sean. Okay, I've got to look at, I mean, yeah, there's going to be a lot of things. I mean, I looked at the same thing last July when I moved in here. I was like, thank goodness we made a little bit of profit off the sale of our house, because I would have had a heck of a time getting
Mm-hmm.
electricity, getting internet, getting water, getting light, getting everything turned on.
Because everything, of course, has an activation fee, even though you're about
Right,
to be paying for it forever. There's
right.
oh, we gotta pay this fee,
Deposit
fee,
and everything else in between.
uh, and like for us, like, and that's the good thing. Like, Tony is, for me, like, seriously been the best partner and rock through all of this, because she understands, like, hey, when we first get out there, like, just to play it safe, I'm gonna have 3 jobs, like, because we don't know what it's gonna look like out there. Like, let's get the ball rolling right away until the dust settles, and then when we've caught up and everything's good, then that's when the dust settles and things roll. Like, we know it's we'd rather do that and be like, oh crap, we didn't need to do that, but we did it, as opposed to like going out to the other side of the continent and just finding out, like, oh, we just got hit from left field with this, and then we struck out here, and then this
Right.
thing comes in. So it's this is we're definitely doing what we can to be over prepared, which I'm super super grateful for, and my new boss and my new job has been extremely generous and helpful, and
That's
all
great.
that stuff too.
That's
So
great.
it's as
So
nervous as I am, they've made it a lot better.
so let's look.
That's
Let's look
us.
just for the last few minutes that we have here. Let's look long term. Let's look long term and play a little game of what if. Okay. So what's best in your guys' eyes? What is best case scenario and what is worst case scenario with our economic, with the economy, with things like they are right now? I mean, even if these shortages play out like they say they're going to play out, what's our best case versus worst case scenario?
Um, just supply chain, or are we talking
Just
economics?
the whole shooting match.
I mean, economically, I think worst case scenario, recession or even depression, just because of all the stuff that's going on with the overspending, the overprinting, and all that kind of stuff, and then our inflation. Best case scenario, Jerome Powell's right, and we get a soft landing with these interest rate hikes, and we can get things back on track in our economy. Unfortunately, I don't see that being likely, but I'm not here to spread fear porn either. But yeah, people should have emergency funds and be prepared for every scenario. As far as supply chain issues, I don't know. I mean, we're already seeing the military being activated to try to fix the infant formula shortage. It's going to take I don't know. If things get worse, I see it becoming a real worldwide effort. I don't even know. I don't even know if you say that, because eventually it becomes who gets the most. Maybe it becomes a struggle between countries to get certain supplies. I don't know what the supply issue looks like, to be honest.
Yeah,
Sean?
I would say if you are an individual that lives in a rural community, definitely do the things that we kind of talked about. Like I hate, go back to the financial mindset of, the 1930s and post World War II of if you have access to, grow your own food, do it. Even if that saves you $30 a week, that saves you 30
$30.
bucks a week.
Mm-hmm.
Little things like that. Just finding out what you can do for yourself. Like, and like Travis said, and I, unless you have access, like legitimate access, and others might disagree with me on this, but like right now, if things are tight for you, don't worry about buying these dips in the crypto market.
Yep.
Okay, like
Yep.
don't, unless you're like really not worried about it. If you have money that you can put away or resources that you can put away that like, hey, I have this, be careful, because the dips
I
that
love
we're
it.
seeing could continue to dip further.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't know if and when some of these are going to come back. So just be careful. Do that kind of thing sparingly. I know there's like a lot of people like, oh, do this, but do it sparingly. If you can, cool, go for it. If you're like, hey, I can't really afford to lose $50, but it's getting cheaper and it might come back next week, like, don't do it.
Well, if I
You
could,
know,
I think, and my 10 cents worth on this is, and I've kind of already put on this already. I'm definitely with you, Sean. We as Americans, number one, I think that we have to start thinking differently as consumers, as investors, as just overall people. We need to start looking at things differently. Number one thing, and you pointed it out too, is not to have a freak out. It's really easy to do right now to have a freak out, to say, dear God, what's going to happen now? And why, let's look at where we need to cut back on. And, I feel for these people who have to decide between, okay, am I going to let the water get shut off and I'll just, I'll use bottled water to prepare food with, and or I'll take showers in a company bathroom or whatever, or am I I feel for those people, but we really do need to change mindset. We need to think of a different way of how to approach the problem other than just, okay, let's continue to spend and go at the way things currently are. And some of those things are just going to be, okay, you're going to have to do without for a while. And we were talking, in our group chat today. He's like, "Man, thank goodness for the mothers who are breastfeeding." Well, there's still those kids who need certain nutrients that they don't get from breast milk, and so, you know, obviously hoarding isn't the answer. Okay, by hoarding it, you're saying, okay, I'm just going to, okay, that continues to contribute to the problem because when you hoard, you're causing a shortage in the market. You're not part of the solution. It may be a solution for yourself, but it also is it's tough on the group as a whole, as the consumers as a whole. Our friend Colby Coleman just said it's tough to have an emergency fund. It is tough to have an emergency fund, and those of us, and I know Colby's in an education household, that it is hard to put aside for that, and people like, I actively give to my church. That's the last aspect I want to cover. Don't stop looking for others who are in need. This whole thing of I'm going to look out for number one. Well, who's number one? I'm number one. I continue to give to my church. Why? Because first of all, my belief states that I should do this. This is something I need to do. But I know, I mean, at any time I can go to our church and say, hey, show me where our money's being spent at. And they can say, okay, here's where it's being spent. I know where it's being spent at. If you see somebody who's in need, even if it's at the gas pump, or you see somebody who's stuck on man, I'm out of gas. These are the people you still need to look to help, because some of these people, the reason why they're out of gas on the side of the road because they can't afford to put, and so they're going to call one of their buddies or whatever and say, hey, I need some help. Continue to look at those people who are in need as well. It's easy for us to look inward and forego the problem that's outward in front of us. So that's the other thing. Don't forget the people around you who are also, we think that we have it rough, but when you look at us versus the rest of our world, our poverty level, this is a wake-up call too, that we really need to be aware of how well off we are. Even at our poverty level, a large percentage of third world countries can't even touch our poverty level. I mean, they're so far below our poverty level that to them in their country, our poverty level would be living like a prince. So these are things that I think that we should take into consideration.
100%. I agree.
So, yeah, I definitely agree with you as well.
Yeah. So I kind of went where we wanted to go tonight, but I also think that we didn't get to talk about Monkey Pox, but again, that's also fear porn. Folks, yeah.
Well, we'll see how
we'll
both
talk,
of those get.
We'll
week.
Definitely look at. We're watching the China, the Joe Biden China statement with eager anticipation. How he can, how much further his foot can go into his mouth. So, go Joe.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, again, everyone, thank you all so much for listening. Hopefully, some luck comes our way and things get a bit cheaper and more available. Well, fingers crossed. And again, we can't wait for you guys to join us. Make sure, I say it every single week, be a friend, tell a friend, make sure you let people know about us. And we'll definitely have some good things rolling. We'll definitely have a good guest on here before too long. And we'll continue to bring you the best show that we possibly can and any kind of updates as things come out. I know we have been talking. There is going to get we're going to have a couple weeks here where we might have a week off, just depending on vacations and things stacking up and the move and everything like that. But again, we will keep you guys posted as we do our best to make sure that everything transitions smoothly for the voice of reason. And again, catch us wherever you catch us, whether it's Spotify, Apple Podcast, the list goes on and on. I Yeah, I'm not even going to try to continue to ramble on. But
you know where to get us
before
at.
gentlemen, is there anything you guys would like to add before we leave?
Thank you guys. Always great. My best part of my week starts on Monday with my two buddies and our friends out there in Spotify and YouTube land.
Yeah, thank you everybody for listening.
Yep, we'll talk to you guys next week.
We'll see you.